Yeah. So that was So that was my.
You've talked IP. We can't end this without you at least. I mean, there's too much about your history that you can't share it all here. But I just want to touch on maybe two things. One of them is IP, and then you get into the Kenya Copyright Board.
Right. Again, because I think of my involvement with the music industry, etc., and my very open love of IP, to be honest, because in all my trainings, I always raise the issue around IP, copyright, and etc.
And have you seen IP work in this country?
Yes, I have, definitely. And when I say IP to everyone else, intellectual property. I was very lucky during Mwai Kibaki's presidency to get voted onto the Kenya Copyright Board by the Attorney General then, Githu Muigai, where I served for 2 terms, for 6 years. In fact, I only stepped down last year. After serving 2 terms, you can only serve 2 terms. However, I have a small consultancy role that I have stepped in to actually assist MCSK in governance audit issues. So I've actually been seconded in a way from Kekobo to just help, because they just recently got their license back. And
MCSK has got their license back.
MCSK got their license back, so there's a lot of hope.
So is the park still there?
No, it isn't. So MCSK has a new board, a fresh board, and we just hope, this is it. And it does look like they're committed to it. So that's something to really look forward to. Have I seen IP work? A few years ago, I remember Nonini getting, I think, a check of 3 million shillings for some of his, for copyright. And he hadn't taken out a new song in a while. And everyone was like, what? How? How is it possible? Corruption. It wasn't. Nonini at the time especially was one of the most played artists around Kenya, like in vernacular stations and whatnot. And that's how he made his money. So have I seen IP work? Yes, because in 1997 when Hearthstone had one of the biggest hits on Kenyan radio, he got a check at the end of the year of 500 shillings.
Okay.
It was they actually wrote a check out for it, which I think he tore up in front of them. So to see people earning 3 million, there's been change, definitely. The collections have gone up, the administration still needs a little help, but I think we're getting there. And it's going to be a process, but I think, yes, artists should definitely copyright their stuff before letting it out on radio, before sharing it on YouTube. It's one of the biggest mistakes artists make.
I've actually had a couple of people in the Playhouse, and IP, this even being in, I like what you said, it's not just music, even the creative side, the photography side, which is
fashion designers, photographers, software designers. Like, you can copyright for 1,000 shillings only. This is what people don't get. But if you're doing an app, you just copyright
the back end.
Yeah. It's copyright. Yeah, and the code is copyrighted. That's all you need to do, and it's secure.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Okay. On another flip side, you've talked jazz. We can't not mention Safaricom jazz, and because you're back this. I mean, on your Instagram, I'm like, dude, you're 50. No one can even tell you're 50. That's all.
Thank you. Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Thank you.
But also because of how much you are grinding. I'm not calling it grinding. Maybe for you it's just a hobby passion. But you are Capital Club. I think I've seen you there more than anyone. Mercury, you're there. Safaricom Jazz, you're there. This new event that you started doing on Sundays. It's like you've kicked into gear 4.
I'm having fun. I won't lie to you. Music is my escape. Music has been my release. I don't drink alcohol. I haven't in 18 years. I don't play golf. I don't do the gym too much. I do quite a bit of yoga. But music is my everything. It's my release. It's my psychologist. It's my partner. It's my life. Without music, I'd be dead. Safaricom Jazz, again, my relationship with Safaricom has never ended since the day it started. I'm always involved one way or another, but I started a sort of jazz neo-soul night at Mercury on Sundays. It was called Smooth. We used to do smooth jazz, Afro neo-soul jazz, Afro jazz rather than neo-soul, blah blah blah. And it was the only known night where a DJ actually DJs such music. So when Safaricom Jazz came about, it was nearly a natural thing that they asked me to come and do and
it's been together ever since.
It's been such. Remember David? There was another DJ who actually did a stint.
Did you bring in Hugh for Safaricom Jazz?
Yes, I was involved in that, again, indirectly, so to speak. But I always facilitated his presence here, so to speak. And the relationship with Safaricom and Safaricom Jazz has been just, honestly, in recent times, some of the most beautiful moments, because I got introduced to jazz by my then housemate, Wilberforce Waudo, rest in peace, when we were auditors in London in 92. That's when I actually got into, I would say, introduced properly, because he was a jazz freak.
Yeah.
And he said, no, listen to this. And I really just got into it then, like into Clue, whatnot. And then fast forward to Safaricom Jazz to meet all these
Guys,
great artists that you only dreamt about. All the Grammy Award winners. You're like side by side, you're taking photos, you're hanging out with them like your old friends. I mean, as Jeff would say, you don't get this anywhere else. You really just don't get this anywhere else. And every year they ask me, to do it. I get so excited, like it's the first time they ask, because I don't take it for granted that I'm the only one who can do it or will do it. So every time they ask, I must be doing something right, I think. But I love it so much, and I get to curate music for it, because my job is also to, in between bands as they change over, is to sort of
keep the flow, the momentum.
It actually is to transit you out of the last band and enter mood for the next band. So if the next band is like a Latino jazz band, and you've come off an Afro jazz band, I'll play some Latino jazz to just transition, basically. So I'm a transitional DJ as well. And then I do what has now become known as a staple, an after party, usually for about an hour afterwards. And I like to do Afro jazz, so basically jazz tune, Afro pop, but jazzed up. So jazz versions of Afro pop, Nigerian and Kenyan music, and the young ones absolutely love it. It's just a way just to let them have their piece of cake, so to speak. Because actually 80%, probably more, but 80% of the people who come from jazz nowadays are actually under the age of 30.
That is so cool to know.
It is fantastic, actually. And Manu Dibango came last year. He pointed it out. He said, I've never been to a jazz show with so many young people. He said, this is beautiful. Because these are people we need to convert into it. And without them knowing, they're slowly just converting.
Yep.
Yeah, and that for me has been the most beautiful experience at Safaricom Jazz. The other milestone.
Can we talk about, because there's one that I don't even want to forget. You did a stint in radio.
Oh gosh. Oh yeah.
Because I'm like, in fact, I had to search for this, because I'm like, how can this guy have been a DJ for this long and he's not been on radio?
10 years ago, I had a show, Golden Tones. No, Golden Tones. It was called Golden Sunday.
Golden Sunday.
Everything's gold. Golden Sunday, which used to be between 9 and 11, and then Charles' show used to come after me, doing Neo Soul 11 till 1.
So this is on Capital FM.
Capital FM, 98.4 Capital FM. And this was in 2007, 8. In fact, the reason I stopped doing the show after about a year, or less than a year, is because I had to do TPF, Tusker Project Fame. And the times clashed, so I couldn't do both. And I had to stop, sadly, the show to focus on TPF, because it was a 16-part, 8-week show, whatever. And if Capital's listening, I really want my show back. And it was a fantastic. So I used to play 70s, 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Now forget. So in the first hour, I'd do 60s and 70s. And the second hour, I'd do 80s music. And honestly,
you're just playing for yourself, right?
I was just playing for myself. And I think I got a huge cult following. I think. I mean, somebody else had run it before me, but I think I really grew the show, personally speaking. Because I'd also bring my own music. I wouldn't just rely on what they had at Capital. I'd bring my own music. I'm like, no, this stuff guys need to hear. And then I'd talk about it, because I knew this music. I lived it. I lived it. I love the 60s. I love the 50s. I love the 70s. I love the 80s. I love the 90s. I mean, I love all kinds of music. So it was such a fun show to do. And people would call in, people would complain, we're at church, we're trying to get out of our car to go to church, but we are listening, please stop playing the music, we want to go to church. Well, I mean, sorry, Pastor. So it was fun. It was a fun time. Yeah, 98.4. I'd forgotten about that, actually. Thank you.
Yeah. So what did you want to say before I interjected to the 98?
I think one of my highlights last year was getting a call from Ginadine Karaoke again, months before the event, and saying,
Aha.
I want you to play for a very special guest. I just can't tell you who yet. Please just sign here, sign here, sign here. This non-disclosure agreement. Like, who is it? She's like, no, can't tell you. First sign. So we sign. And then she tells me who it is. And I cannot tell anyone in the world, and it killed me. So 6 months later, I'm in Kogelo, DJing for President Barack Obama.
None other than Barack Obama.
That was pretty cool.
That was fun.
That was a pretty... Now, the only other time I've been a bit starstruck is when I was taking a photo, you know, when I met him and took a photo, etc. That was... And he apparently liked the music. And I have never prepped for a show or a gig like that before in my life. I had sleepless nights. I had sleepless nights, and I had to do a special mix for the luncheon, for a dinner, and then the main event, and all sorts of things. And it was phenomenal. It was such an experience, honestly speaking. One of my most memorable, easily, in my entire DJing career. But the best part, and I've not really told this story to anybody. I'm not even sure I'm allowed to say this, but I think I am. When he was leaving, he'd launched a basketball court with the NBA Africa, and he was leaving now out, and I was still on the stands, and he was leaving to go to his car because he was going to a big conference in South Africa. And from where I was standing, I could see him. He was literally just walking kind of ahead of me, and I was on the stands of the basketball court, and I said, "Mr. President." He didn't respond. I called him again. I don't know what led me to do this, to be honest. I said, "Mr. President," and he turned and looked at me. And Wakanda had just come out, more or less, and I just went, "Wakanda." And up to there, I don't even know what. It was a moment of insanity. I don't even know what made me do that, to be honest. And he turned around, he smiled at me, and then just went. I nearly fell off. Actually, nearly just at that moment, I must admit, I understand what they mean when they say man crush. I just nearly fell off where I was sitting. I could not believe he did that. It was that guy. Honestly, the word swag is not even enough to describe him. He has swag dripping. He's the coolest guy I think I've ever met. He was amazing.
Yeah.
So that was an amazing experience. In terms of career highlights, that was definitely one of them.
It was up there.
Yeah, he's definitely up there.
And you forgot to mention after that you threw down like crazy, because there were also a lot of dignitaries who came.
There were a lot of
place.
dignitaries. We had a gig. I had to run away.
Literally,
I literally ran away. The gig was so hot.
It was so hot.
And I had to get back to Kisumu because I was going to miss my flight. I think it was 2 in the morning or 4 in the morning. I can't even remember what time it was. I had to disguise. I had to get another DJ to play some music as I ran to the van. And they came looking for me. And they nearly stopped me leaving. And it was quite wild. That was one of the... we threw down in Kogelo.
Yeah, it was a fun moment.
It's a good gig.
Hey, Devi, you've shared. Yanni, thank you so much for sharing your heart. Is there anything that you feel like, Yanni, actually turning 50 and do you stop? What happens?
You know what? Life is just starting. When you get to 50, you chill out a lot more. You don't take things so seriously. And the thing about me, my philosophy, and people say, "Oh, you look so young. I can't believe you're 50." The truth is, I don't take things personally. I don't think things when things happen in life. I don't think life has conspired to make my life worse. It's just life. And I manage my stress very well, thanks to music. But this is just advice to people, just young people and even people my age or whatever. It's never that serious. Life doesn't conspire to make you sad, and you choose your happiness to a very large extent, okay? Yes, bad things happen sometimes, everything, but you don't need to take it personally. You don't need to let it enter your body. It works like a cancer when it enters your body and eats you up emotionally, physically, So that's how I've approached 50, happily. I have a lot of life left. I have a lot to give the industry. I mentor a lot of creatives.
Even your son.
So yes, my second born, actually all my kids are creatives. My eldest son is doing a degree in 3D animation out of the country. My second born plays 5 instruments. He's doing his A-level music exams as we speak, actually, as we record this. He's actually sitting his exams right now.
He was on stage with you?
He's been on the Safaricom Youth Orchestra for the last 4 years. He just actually graduated from, because once you hit 18 you can't be on the, he just graduated from the Safaricom Youth Orchestra. And what's beautiful is because Safaricom Youth Orchestra and Ghetto Classics always open for Safaricom Jazz, I was always on stage with him every time I did Safaricom Jazz. So that was a beautiful moment. And he wants to go study music composition and music scoring for movies and gaming. That's his ultimate goal.
And
so
gaming.
That's actually where he really wants to excel in, is music scoring for gaming. So then my daughter, who plays instruments, she's actually the most like me. She's an all-rounder. She's a dancer. She plays the flute. She sings. She's very advanced in her singing, by the way. She's into poetry. She's really all-round. She's like a performing, let's call her performing arts is her thing. Although she also wants to become a lawyer, a fashion designer, and all sorts of things. She's 12. Yeah. She's allowed to explore all these things. She's most got my character, but more importantly, she's also a DJ.
Nice.
Yeah.
Like,
she DJs for children's parties between the age of 0 and 12, 13.
Nice.
And she does it really well. And here's the thing, I never really taught her. She just observed and she does it. And she does it really well.
What? Mixing songs together and all?
Does it really well. Children-centric songs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She's actually quite good. I guess it's in the genes. So yes, I have creative, and this is why, and I keep on telling people, this is why Creative Enterprise Center is very important for me, for teaching creatives how to make a living out of their art, because I'm hoping my children will make a living out of their art. So it's very important I help set an atmosphere, and that's why I work a lot with policy, with governments, and not just in Kenya, but around Africa, helping creatives to have an easier into this industry and make it sustainable for them, because this is the future. I mean, the creative sector is one of the fastest rising sectors in Africa, in any industry. It's higher than agriculture, than tourism, like oil. It's the fastest rising, but unfortunately the least looked upon by a lot of governments, except South Africa, Nigeria, and some others who really realized that actually this is at the very core. And I just really pray the Kenyan government will wake up to that a lot more. They're trying, but I think they can do a lot more. Yes.
That's a wrap then.
It's a wrap.
I think
I have nothing else to say.
Nothing but thanking you again. Thanking you first and foremost for sitting here and keeping your word and giving your story. Yeah. Secondly, thank you for the wisdom that you've shared in your story.
Welcome.
Last but definitely not least, thank you for your contribution to this industry. As you talk right now, I'm like, Kwaito came into this country via the guy in front of your screens. I think about all the artists who we listened to or listened to, and the role they played and the wisdom they passed on, but because of people like you. You know what I mean? So thank you.
Thank you.
I've got a gift for you, man. If we're at the Emory Hotel, so lunch is all on me, and they've got and you're a foodie.
I thought you'd never ask.
You're
I am a foodie.
Man.
I love food.
So
I love cooking. I love posting about my food. So yeah.
Yeah. So they've got some very, very, very decent food up in here. The Emory Hotel at Kileleshwa. Thank you, man.
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.